Welcome to Community Voices with your host, Tarence Lauchie. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Now, into the program.
Welcome to another edition of Community Voices. I'm Tarence Lauchie, and we're on 91.9 FM, The People's Choice. I have the privilege of being here in the studio and an opportunity to talk to another one of the Grand Rapidians who's doing something great for our community. So tell a friend, call a friend, text a friend, let somebody know that we are on the air with Community Voices on 91.9 FM, The People's Choice. In the studio, I have a young lady who's been around quite a while doing some work here in the city, and multifaceted, multidimensional, and someone who loves Grand Rapids, I presume. How long have you been here, Miss Debra Bates? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I've been here all my life. You know, I can go and move somewhere.
And you come back?
Come back.
So total has been about 30 years, 40 years?
You know, age is nothing but a number. No, I'm 70, so I've been around a long time.
Praise God. You look beautiful.
No, I've been around a long time.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and the opportunity, like I said, is a privilege all mine to talk to you a little bit about your businesses and even your take on the city right now. There's quite a bit of transition. I've got on my disruptor shirt today, so we know that COVID disrupted everything as it relates to business, ministry, community, family, but you seem to have survived. How long have you been in business? You've got two of them, and we'll talk about them both, Choice Business Services, and we'll also talk about Mimi's Foundations. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been in business?
Well, I started Choice Business Services in 1994.
94, in the 1900s. That's what my kids would say.
1900s. So, you know, some of my customers weren't even born.
Wow.
So
wow.
A long time.
Well, what was the impetus behind it? The Choice Business Services. Let's start there.
Choice Business Services. I worked for, back then it was Lear Siegler, and people will know that name, Lear Siegler. I worked for them for 20 years, and my last position there was a small business administrator. My job was to travel around the country to find small disadvantaged women-owned businesses to make the widgets for our gyroscopes and navigation equipment for aircraft. And so we worked for the government. So we needed to get part of our contract was to give at least 3% of the work to small and small disadvantaged businesses. So it was my job to find those companies. To make a long story short, I found that these companies didn't know how to do business with a large business.
Sure.
They didn't know how to get a contract.
Sure.
They made their widgets, but they didn't know how to manage that communications with the large business.
The dynamics of just that, doing business on a larger
quality
scale.
Control and all of that stuff. So I was going to save the world. I was going to save
Now, were you with the SBA?
No.
Okay.
Matter of fact, we reported to the SBA on a lot of our practices.
Yes. So
that others can learn from it. No, I worked for Smith. It was Lear Siegler Smith Industries, and now it's General Electric, I think, that owns.
So
it
it was
now.
a contract.
Yes.
Awesome.
And so I found that these people needed help, but the thing about it, they didn't want to pay for the help. They'd rather just wing it, you know. So
wow.
So a former boss of mine that I worked for, he had him and four other guys had 4 different companies. They bought a building. They were doing their thing, and they weren't making any money because they weren't invoicing. They weren't getting paid because they didn't bill people. They were just excited about
to be in business,
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
To be in
business. I'm one of my gifts is an organizer and an administrator and figuring out the puzzle. And so he asked me, he said, I'll pay you good. You can do it at night or whatever. Get us together. I did that.
Wow.
And they started making money, so much so that I hired somebody myself to work in the front office to do the intake, and then I would come and make sure it got done.
Absolutely.
So that's how I started. So they told somebody else, this guy that owned East Paris Plaza, he had a large suite with 24 offices, little offices. It used to be a real estate company. He said, I have a company out of Detroit. Matter of fact, 2 companies out of Detroit want to move here. Mm-hmm. They like the space, but they need somebody to manage them within the space. And I heard that you might be able to help us.
So your gift has preceded you, obviously, over the years.
Well, it's funny. I'm a Christian, and I believe that what you put out, you get back.
Ultimately comes back. There's Bible for that.
It does. And the skills, I believe they're gifts. And if you use them properly and manage them properly, you can move ahead. And that's what I did.
I love this conversation. I want to do a quick station identification for those who might just be kind of tuning in, listening. They may be driving in their car or at home or something, but this is Community Voices with Tarence Lauchie, and I am in a privileged conversation with Ms. Bates Debra Bates, to talk about Choice Business Services as well as Mimi's Foundations. But I also want to glean some life isms from you. You made a couple of statements off the air that I think would be motivational, inspirational, but also help people along the way. This is a Christian station, and you just stated, hey, you're a Christian and you believe in what you sow is what you're going to reap. I just paraphrase that. But what gave you this drive to do the services, the business? Because we'll get to Mimi's Foundations in a moment. But the service, besides the fact that these were money opportunities, I'm sure there was some other driving forces behind you wanting to help or to.
Well, usually people have a set skill that they do well. But in order to run a business, it's not just one set skill. You have to have a toolbox of things. Either you're going to hire somebody to do all those things, or you're going to learn them yourself.
Absolutely.
And so I had this group of people that needed all these things. They guided my business. They asked, can you do this? Can you do that? And those were revenue streams. Mm-hmm. The ask turned into a revenue stream, because other people wanted those same things. So the vision behind the business wasn't where I sat down and said, this is what I wanted to do.
It evolved.
It evolved. and it turned into, it started out with 7,000 square feet, went to 10,000 square feet. We ended up with 15,000 square feet.
Nice.
With big companies. But I found, I learned a lesson. Bigger is not always better. When you bring in a big company and they take all your energy, when they get ready to pivot, they leave a big hole.
Sure.
So it's better to have a lot of little companies in there. So when one leaves, you can fill that quickly.
Well, describe this for me, because you're speaking of an ominous in there. Is this a business incubator? Is this contracted lease space?
No.
Describe it. Describe what this is about.
Back when I started this was called, and a lot of the listeners might understand this terminology, it was called an executive suite.
Yes.
Where people rented smaller offices. That changed, and now it is a business center where people can come and rent by the day, by the hour, by the year, or they can buy packages, which they call coworking spaces now. So that's what this business has evolved into.
And COVID probably helped to push the ticket on that one, because people work remotely.
It does. The thing about being remote, though, is being alone all the time is not good for your psyche. We're people that need to see somebody every day. We need to get dressed every day. Otherwise, we fall into this little hole where you stop learning how to talk to people or dress. You come out of the house in your house slippers, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So even people that work from home need a vacation from that. So they can come to a co-working spot and work a couple hours there so that they can get up, get dressed, see other people. So I run a traditional and non-traditional space. I have one side that's very traditional where I have my oldest tenant is like 10 years now. They've been with me. And then I have some that might come once a week.
Nice.
And then I have meeting rooms, a lot of meeting rooms.
Yeah. So in the traditional space, it's probably pretty much set the way things are. But in that non-traditional space, are there group sessions?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, there's Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that location, because there might be somebody listening who said, hey, I need that. That's where I'd like to, start my business from. I've worked with business incubators and small businesses that have started in people's living rooms.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what Choice Business Services offers to our listeners.
Well, the first thing that is, I won't say at the bottom, but it's the first step, getting a mailing address. A mailing address is important. A business address is important, so people now can't Google your residence and show up. So if you have a business address that's not a P.O. box, remember, you cannot receive UPS, FedEx, or any certified mail. So you can start off with just a presence with our address, with a suite number, where we collect your mail, we notify you that you have mail, we can open it up, we can scan it, or you can just come and pick it up. Then the next step might be, well, maybe I don't need the address, maybe I just need a place to meet my clients. And you just go online and say, I would like
book a room.
Or you might want a combination of that. Or you might have this big meeting that you have a presentation and you've got people coming from different places and you need a room for 15 people. So all the equipment is there for you. You just walk in and set up. So it's a place where you can elevate your business or elevate your employment, where you feel comfortable. People with kids can't always get this structured work environment at home that they need.
Correct.
So this is the place, and it's a minimal cost. Parking is free. We have a business lounge. You can eat there. You can call and have meals come in for you, or you can bring your own, because there's a fridge, a microwave, all of that stuff is there. So it is a place where you can be business professional without signing a year lease.
Wow. Listen, this is Miss Debra Bates. She is the CEO, founder, and owner of Choice Business Services, talking a little bit about what it has to offer. I think that people with a small business idea could probably get a little motivation in your space and in your environment, because they're around other people who are doing it.
Exactly. That's what you need, instead of
synergy is what it's called.
Yeah, and not being on this boat in the middle of the ocean by yourself.
Yeah.
It's important. And if you are around other business-like people, you'd be surprised at what happens to you.
Absolutely. Iron sharpens iron. You mentioned something off the air, and you may not be able to quote it immediately, but you said something about taking life one day at a time and handling the things you can and letting go of those that you can't control.
Well, if you are a Christian, you believe in our higher power, our Lord, and He controls. He knows what you need. We don't always know what we need.
Right.
Or we want it spelled out step by step by step. But He has a plan already, right? He already has a plan. So my philosophy is, and I wasn't always this way. I was one of those stressed out people that had to be in control and micromanage everything.
Those are your administrative gifts gone off the rail, right?
Well, really, nobody can do it like Deb can do it, and it's probably true, but you got to turn some of that over. And
God might not agree.
Right. And so over the last few years, I've noticed that my demeanor has really changed, because I have given myself over to him daily.
Amen.
I have let him say, okay, I'm going to guide you. We're going to follow this program today. And tomorrow's going to take care of itself because he's already has that planned out.
Absolutely.
He's got it planned out for me. So if I just follow him, right?
Right.
I'm 2 days ahead.
You must be doing something right after all these years of working in business and providing business services. You've probably seen some great startups that have evolved into, mega business.
One of my first businesses that I remember that we had there that started with a mailbox. I don't know if you remember. It was this business that had portable toilets.
Okay.
And they started there. Humana came to town. A lot of businesses have come to Choice Business Services, so many that I can't even think of them all. And they started there because all they needed was just a little help, so they didn't have to worry about hiring somebody to answer their phone.
Sure.
They didn't have to worry about, back then, people gave us things to type up for them. That doesn't happen. When we started, we had 27 revenue streams. Now we have about 5. That's how much has changed.
Wow.
That's how much has changed.
And that's with the evolution of technology?
That's technology.
Sure.
Because we used to fax things. We used to make copies of things.
Now the iPhone really has taken the place of desktop computers almost.
Everything. And so, and don't get me wrong, I'm not sad about that because other opportunities come up. I do other things for people, and my staff does other things for people. Even the staff has shrunk. I used to have 15 people doing all this stuff. Now it's 3.
Wow.
3
highly skilled individuals, right?
That do. They all have their specialties, and I'm kind of the person that just looks at it and says, let's tweak this or tweak that. I don't have to squeeze it so much.
You don't have to have your hands on it. But you're multifaceted. Let's talk about your other businesses as well. You mentioned that in addition to Choice Business Services, you do something called Mimi's Foundation. Talk about that.
Well, Mimi's Foundation started because a friend of mine couldn't find an undergarment. And women out there will know that that's hard to do because we don't have department stores anymore.
Correct.
We have our retail centers. And what I mean by that, nobody hones a craft of anything. You used to can go to Sears, walk in there, tell them what you wanted, and it was a guy that knew exactly. Well, in the retail world now, it's a shuffle thing. I might be in this department today, and then I'm over here. So nobody learns. So with women's, Mimi's Foundation's boutique is a undergarment fitter. What we do is we fit women with the right undergarment. They can't find the help. They can't even find the product. And I know you guys out there are saying, what's the big deal? It's a big deal.
I would imagine. I got 4 sisters,
Yeah,
lots of aunties,
it's a big deal.
And a wife.
Well, it's a big deal. And people are uncomfortable, so my...
that might be the explanation to a lot of road rage,
Well, it could be. Well, it's frustrating because people think that the numbers, if I measure a number, that's what I should fit in. But it's just like jeans or shoes or anything else. It's who's making it and all that.
And each person is unique, too.
They are. So I put a personal touch on it. Everything is by appointment. And the initial appointment is 30 minutes where we figure out what you need. And we have fun. A lot of people are really particular, and I embrace that. And we try to find them what they need. And so it is a labor of love. It is my way of giving back to women.
Nice.
And take the time with them, and to really listen to them and figure out why they can't find what they need.
Yeah. Those two business entities seems as if they are extensions of who you are as a person.
I hope so.
Talk a little bit about that. As a person, why business services, and then why the comfort fit of custom foundational garments for women? How do those two express who you are?
I'm a person that likes to figure out the puzzles. And with both of these entities, people always ask me, how do I do this? How do I manage this? I don't know anything about this. Can you help me? And my thing is, I never say, I don't know anything about that. I'll say,
Give me a minute.
Yeah, let me find out about that.
Right.
And I was always curious about finding the answer if somebody asked me a question. And I think that that's the foundation. Even now, when I pick up the phone, I used to have, well, I still have them, 100 numbers. And a lot of those numbers are old numbers of old people that had the numbers. I never say they don't have this number anymore. I'll say, they used to have this number about 10 years ago. They no longer have it, and they probably aren't even in business anymore that I know of. Mm-hmm. So you still try to help a person. Don't ever tell them
what you can't do.
You're
this
in
a
business.
Rolodex? Are you talking about a Rolodex? Is it the old traditional Rolodex where you keep these numbers?
No, it's here.
It's in your head, huh? Wow.
It's here.
And the technology now, you can store it in a database.
You can, but I don't need it. I know every client that I've ever had.
Wow.
Wow. And that's just like you.
Yeah.
You just like when you saw me, it's been years.
I remembered. Yeah.
You remember.
I knew I remembered.
Yeah, you remember a part.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the details, but you remember a part.
That sounds like one of the secrets to your success, though, is being personable but also resourceful.
Well, I think that if we love ourselves enough, we can all be that way. You have to love yourself, right, in order to care, because it starts with you.
Sure.
You love God, yourself, and others. Mm-hmm. Okay? So if you carry that philosophy, it's easy. Even when people don't love you back, it's a way to treat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that might be one of the secrets to longevity, is a secret to life success and fulfillment and peace, carrying peace. Being a business owner, especially during the pre and post pandemic era, you've survived. What were your greatest challenges, and what has been your greatest successes in the pre and post pandemic transition for your businesses?
Well, during COVID, nobody came into the office. I didn't even come for the first month. And then I just came myself because my customers still needed things in the office or things done. They didn't come in, but I could go in.
They needed the services.
They needed the services still. So my prayer was that I just kept them with the services so that they wouldn't go up. I just had this thing that I was going to be all right. I didn't think anything other than that. Right. I didn't think anything other than that. So I called them all, sent emails to them all, and whatever you need, I can do. I'm here every day. So I was there by myself until the building opened back up. I was there every day. I stayed home a month, brought all the stuff home. I can't work at home.
You need Choice Business Services.
I had to be at the place. I could not work at home. But we survived because of the great clients that I had that still were willing to need services from me. And that was nothing but God. Because I have competitors. I have a couple competitors in Grand Rapids, and I'm just this 70-year-old woman that's been doing it forever. And people come to me, I believe, because I customize the service to fit them. I just really believe that, because they could go someplace else.
Absolutely.
So I think it's the spin that we put on it. why they come and why they recommend people to come to us.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I've only been in front of you for a few minutes. I knew about Mimi's Foundations, but I didn't know much about Choice Business Services. But the secret sauce, I think, is your faith and how you live it, because it draws people. And I think that by providing that foundation that you just said, love yourself, love God, and love others, think for a moment. That's straight from Scripture.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us that it is through wisdom that a house is built.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all the rooms are filled with pleasant knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what you put in place. So you've been in business how many years with Choice?
29.
29 years going strong. Where are you located?
625 Kenmore, which is in between. It's off of Cascade Road, in between East Paris and Forest Hills.
I know exactly where it is.
So it's easy to find off the expressway. It's free parking. I mean, it's tucked away. Beautiful scenery. We have, patio, all of this stuff. People think because of the stature of the building, God, this must cost. But you know what?
You're able to give them affordable rates.
I am.
Yeah. What about your web information? Because could they go online and
Sure,
find out costs, that
sure,
type of thing?
Sure.
Give them your web address.
Choice Biz. ChoiceBiz is in zebra.com. That easy.
Choicebiz.com.
Yeah. It's easy. And the thing about it is that the website is laid out where you can just press a button.
Navigate, yeah.
Or you can just pick up the phone and actually you could talk to me.
Give them a phone number. That would be helpful as well, because there are some people who still want to talk to a person.
Well, I'm that way. I like to talk. I like to touch. I like to see.
That's right.
My number is 616-975-0100. It's that easy.
That's simple as well.
That's simple as well, because I've been around a long time, so I got the easy number.
That's awesome. So they can get information both for Choice Business Services, but then if they have the personal need of Mimi's Foundations, they can talk to you about that as well.
Well, you know what? Do not cross the two.
Okay, so you got two separate entities, two separate approaches.
People will call me on my personal phone and want to talk to me about Mimi's. I give them Mimi's number
That's
and
right.
put on my other hat.
There
because
you go.
it's different. So Mimi's is the name is Mimi's. MEMES foundations.com. It's easy.
That's simple.
It's simple.
I love your business model, and it seems to me that you are not a stressed business person. You're somebody who's just living your purpose.
It took time to do that, though, and believing. Your faith and believing in that you don't do this by yourself. That's what helps. When we try to run everything ourselves and push everything, that's when stuff happens.
It gets out of control.
It gets out of control.
You have been an inspiration, just me listening to you, and I'm sure that our listening audience has been blessed. We've got a few minutes, and I'd like for you to just take advantage of that opportunity to encourage somebody who might be interested in starting business or somebody who's in business that got kind of snagged on trying to handle it themselves. Give them an inspirational moment.
The thing to remember, I feel, is sometimes being in business or even making that move to take that step to start a business is lonely. But if you can find one person that is not judgmental, that you can just talk to, it helps. I mentor quite a few business people. We don't have to talk every day, but when they get stuck, they'll call and say, what do you think about this? The key to starting as a business is to start.
Just do something, right?
Do something. Make a step. Write it down. I always tell people, I do my best. I always have a pad of paper next to my bedstand because sometimes I'll wake up with something. He gives it to me. I need to write it down, and then I sleep like a baby. Sometimes people carry around these things in their head and never write it down. You think it. Once it travels from the hand to a piece of paper, that's the start. because that's a commitment. When you write it out, that's a commitment.
Yeah. You've given birth to it pretty much.
You've given birth to it. When you tell one person, I'm not saying tell the world, but I'm a true believer. I don't care who you tell. You can't steal from me.
That's right. That's right. If it's a God thing, it's going to be yours.
You can't. And plus, I'm not afraid of competition because nobody going to do it like me anyway.
Well, if you think about it, competition is what makes us better.
It makes us better. That's why McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell,
and KFC, all next door.
All next door. Because everybody in that car doesn't want Taco Bell.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so I'm going to run over here. So the biggest thing of not starting is fear. I mean, so you make a mistake. My thing, I tell people, it's not how you fall down. It's how you get up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't wallow in that falling down because you will have setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You will make wrong turns. But you pivot and you ask for help. And you ask the right people for help.
That's right. That's right.
Not those jokers that are telling you can't do this or what?
Nor would you ask a foot doctor for brain surgery.
That's right.
Two opposite ends of the body.
That's right. Don't stay in the company of those naysayers. Why you want to do that?
Yeah.
You know? Or what makes you think you can do that? I was naive enough to think that I could do anything. You know, I just would walk into it and say, okay, here I am. Let me see. You know, so I didn't have any of those preconceived notions that I couldn't.
Right.
I didn't have people, well, there were people, but I didn't walk their way.
Right.
You know, they weren't going to tell me I couldn't do that because I didn't walk over there to get it from them.
That's right.
You know, so they couldn't tell me.
So you chart your own course of destiny with your faith, and you believe that all things are possible.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. If it's meant for me, it's going to be for me. You know, it's there, you know.
I like that.
I built this new space. It's 5,400 square feet. And people say, well, who did all that? I said, physically, most of it, I did it. But I didn't think that I couldn't.
Right. Nobody told you it was impossible.
Nobody told me it was impossible. And it just fell into place. So I know I still need more customers. I still need more clients. But I don't believe that the Lord put me in that path. It's going to take time. It takes perseverance. It takes patience to build your dream. Most of them don't come overnight.
Right. Right.
It takes time. And be patient.
And there's some principles that's also found in Scripture about seed, time, and harvest.
Yeah.
You know, people want to put seed time together. No, there's seed, comma, time, comma, and harvest.
Yeah.
So we have to give things time. Yeah. Well, you've done some time in business here in the greater Grand Rapids area. You're a hidden gem. I appreciate you being here. I'm enlightened or even inspired by your testimony and how it's obvious that what you're doing is what you've been called to do.
Exactly. I believe it. Because I'm still surprised every day that I think of something new to do. You know, he gives it to me.
Right.
You know, and when you become of a certain age, you think that maybe it's time for you. No, I got something else.
You're just
for
getting
you to
started,
do.
right?
I got something else for you to do here. Can you handle that? And so
Yeah.
I'm just blessed. I'm blessed that way.
Well, you've got the mind of the greats, and thank you so much for being here, Ms. Debra Bates, Choice Business Services.
Correct.
Thank you so much for being here. And Mimi's Foundations, give them your email address for Choice Business Services once more, or your website, I'm sorry.
It is choicebiz.com and Mimi's foundation.com with S's. Mimi's S and foundations with a S.com. And I look forward to seeing some of you people out there, and hopefully we'll meet on the journey.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you, Ms. Bates. This is Tarence Lauchie with Community Voices, and you've been listening to this interview with Ms. Debra Bates, Choice Business Services. Stay tuned for more great listening here on 91.9 FM, The People's Choice.
You've been listening to Community Voices with your host, Tarence Lauchie. Community Voices can be heard every Friday at 12 noon. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest, or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Until next week, let your voice be heard in the community.